The clock is ticking. The Biden administration is in a race against time, the mission to deliver promised aid to Ukraine before a potential transition of power. The urgency stems from the upcoming election and the possibility of a second Trump administration. The stakes couldn't be higher for war-torn Ukraine, reliant on US support. Every weapon system, every dollar could be critical in the months ahead. The current administration understands the gravity of the situation. A delay in aid could have disastrous consequences for Ukraine. The pressure is on to expedite the flow of military hardware and financial resources. The next few weeks are crucial. This is about providing a lifeline to a nation fighting for its existence. The world is watching, and the actions of the United States will have far-reaching consequences. The success of this push will be judged by the speed and efficiency of aid delivery. The coming weeks will test the resolve and commitment of the United States to its Ukrainian partners. The shortfall in promised aid has created a logistical nightmare for Ukraine's military planners. Trying to coordinate a defense against a much larger and better equipped enemy is challenging enough. Doing so without a predictable and consistent flow of weapons and ammunition is nearly impossible. Ukrainian commanders are forced to make difficult choices, often having to prioritize immediate needs over long-term strategic goals. The lack of reliable support has a demoralizing effect on the troops. Soldiers on the front lines need to know that they have the resources they need to fight and win. When supplies are uncertain, it can erode morale and make it harder to maintain fighting spirit. This is not just a matter of equipment, it's about trust. Ukraine needs to be able to trust that its allies will stand by them and provide the necessary support to achieve victory. The current inconsistency in aid delivery undermines that trust and makes it difficult for Ukraine to plan for the future. The international community must recognize that delays and shortfalls in aid have a direct impact on the battlefield. Providing Ukraine with the resources it needs in a timely and predictable manner is not just about fulfilling promises, it's about giving Ukraine a fighting chance. The specter of a second Trump presidency hangs over Ukraine like a dark cloud. Trump's past statements and actions regarding Ukraine have been a source of deep anxiety for Kyiv and its supporters. His admiration for Vladimir Putin, his skepticism towards NATO, and his transactional view of foreign policy have raised serious concerns about his commitment to Ukraine's security. Trump's unpredictability is perhaps the most worrying factor. He has shown a willingness to make sudden, impulsive decisions on matters of international importance, often without consulting allies or considering the long-term consequences. This makes it extremely difficult to predict how a second Trump administration would approach the conflict in Ukraine. Would he continue to provide military and financial aid, or would he cut off support and pressure Ukraine into making concessions to Russia? Would he work with European allies to maintain a united front against Russian aggression? Or would he pursue a more unilateralist approach, potentially undermining NATO's unity? These are not academic questions. The answers have the potential to determine Ukraine's fate. The world is watching and waiting, holding its breath, uncertain of what the future holds for Ukraine if Trump returns to the White House. As the United States grapples with its own internal political uncertainties, the question arises, can Europe step up and fill the void if American support for Ukraine wanes? The answer, unfortunately, is not straightforward. While there is a strong sense of solidarity with Ukraine across much of Europe, the continent is far from united on the best way forward. Some countries, like Poland and the Baltic states, have been steadfast in their support for Ukraine, providing significant military and humanitarian aid. They see Russia's aggression as a direct threat to their own security and are committed to helping Ukraine defeat it. Others, however, are more hesitant, wary of provoking Russia or getting dragged into a protracted conflict. This division within Europe is compounded by economic anxieties and the rising cost of living. Many European countries are facing their own domestic challenges, and the prospect of diverting scarce resources to support a protracted war in Ukraine is not politically popular. While Europe has shown commendable unity in the face of Russian aggression, the question of whether they can shoulder the burden of supporting Ukraine alone remains unanswered. Section 5. The defense industry bottleneck, a looming crisis for Ukraine. Even if the political will to support Ukraine remains strong, a critical challenge looms: the capacity of the Western defense industry to meet Ukraine's needs. The conflict has exposed a stark reality. Years of underinvestment and a focus on peacetime production have left Western countries ill-prepared to sustain a high-intensity conflict over an extended period. Ukraine is burning through ammunition and equipment at an astonishing rate, far exceeding the production capacity of most Western countries. This has created a bottleneck, with demand far outstripping supply. While efforts are underway to ramp up production, these take time, and there is no quick fix. This bottleneck has forced Western countries to dip into their own stockpiles to provide Ukraine with the weapons it needs. But these stockpiles are not inexhaustible, and there are growing concerns about the impact on their own military readiness. The defense industry bottleneck poses a serious challenge to the West's ability to sustain its support for Ukraine in the long term. Addressing this issue requires a concerted effort to increase production capacity and streamline supply chains. Section 6. Beyond military aid, the importance of economic assistance. While the focus has understandably been on providing military aid to Ukraine, it's crucial not to overlook the importance of economic assistance. The war has devastated Ukraine's economy, causing widespread unemployment, disrupting supply chains, and triggering a humanitarian crisis. Rebuilding Ukraine's economy will require a massive infusion of funds, not just to repair the damage caused by the war, but also to lay the foundation for a more resilient and prosperous future. This includes investing in infrastructure, supporting small businesses, and providing humanitarian assistance to those displaced by the conflict. Economic assistance is not just about alleviating suffering, it's also a strategic imperative. A strong and prosperous Ukraine is essential to deter future Russian aggression and promote stability in the region. By investing in Ukraine's economic recovery, the West can send a powerful message to Moscow that its attempts to destabilize and subjugate Ukraine will not succeed. Economic assistance must go hand in hand with military aid. Failing to address the economic crisis will only prolong Ukraine's suffering and make it harder for the country to rebuild and recover in the long run. Section 7. The geopolitical chessboard, Ukraine's pivotal role. The conflict in Ukraine is not just a regional conflict. It has profound geopolitical implications. At its core, it is a struggle between two visions of the international order. On one side is Russia, seeking to reassert its dominance over its neighbors and overturn the rules-based international order that has prevailed since the end of the Cold War. On the other side is Ukraine and its Western backers, fighting to uphold the principles of sovereignty, territorial integrity, and the right of nations to choose their own destiny. The outcome of this conflict will have far-reaching consequences, not just for Ukraine and Russia, but for the entire world. A Russian victory would embolden authoritarian regimes around the world and undermine the credibility of the United States and its allies. It would send a dangerous message that might makes right and that aggression will be tolerated. Conversely, a Ukrainian victory, achieved with the support of the West, would reaffirm the principles of the rules-based international order and deter future aggression. The world is watching this conflict closely, and the stakes could not be higher. The outcome will shape the geopolitical landscape for decades to come. Section 8. The spectre of appeasement, a dangerous path for the West. As the war in Ukraine drags on, some voices in the West advocate for a negotiated settlement, even if it means pressuring Ukraine into concessions. This approach is fraught with danger. It risks repeating the mistakes of appeasement in the 1930s. Appeasement is based on the flawed premise that concessions will lead to lasting peace. History shows this is rarely the case. Aggressors often see concessions as weakness. Pressuring Ukraine into a peace deal rewards Russia's aggression. Such a deal would betray Ukraine's sacrifices and set a dangerous precedent. The West must resist appeasement and support Ukraine. Only by presenting a united front can the West deter further aggression and preserve international order. Section 9. A call to action. The world cannot afford to fail Ukraine. The war in Ukraine is a defining moment for the international community. It is a test of the West's resolve, its commitment to its values, and its ability to defend the rules-based international order. The world cannot afford to fail Ukraine. To do so would have dire consequences, not just for Ukraine, but for the future of democracy and freedom around the world. The United States, in particular, has a moral and strategic imperative to lead the way. As the leader of the free world, it must rally its allies, provide Ukraine with the support it needs to win, and hold Russia accountable for its crimes. This is not just about Ukraine, it is about defending the principles of freedom, democracy, and self-determination that underpin the international order. It is about sending a clear message to aggressors everywhere that their actions will not be tolerated. The world is watching. The time for complacency is over. The time for action is now.
So hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, and let's turn the page on a new adventure together. Get ready to experience books like never before, only on VBook 360. Like, comment, and share to support the channel and keep the video magic alive. Thank you for stopping by. And remember, every video has a story, and every story deserves to be shared. See you in the next video.